Your world, your challenges, your faith. When faith within engages the world without, there's power. It's living life from the inside out.
Maybe someone you love just told you he's deconstructing his faith. Or maybe you've never heard that term before. Either way, more than a few people around you are pulling apart what they once thought they believed and are building something new in its place, or maybe nothing at all. I'm Martha Manikas Foster, and today on Family Life's Inside Out, we're going to look at what people mean when they talk about Christian faith deconstruction. My guest is author, pastor, and professor, Dr. Reverend A.J. Swoboda. His new book is titled After Doubt, How to Question Your Faith Without Losing It. Dr. Swoboda leads a Doctor of Ministry program at Fuller Theological Seminary and is an assistant professor of biblical studies and world Christianity at Bushnell University in Eugene, Oregon. Welcome to Inside Out, Dr. Swoboda.
Thanks, Martha. It's great to be with you this morning.
I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I really, really am, but I do have to go off topic for 1 second. As a child who watched the Miracle Mets in 1969, I have to ask you a question. Are you related at all to former Mets outfielder Ron Swoboda?
You know, I've been told I am. I've been told that I am something like his second cousin. So family lore tells me that I am related to Ron Swoboda. Yes,
but no posters of him on your wall as a child or anything like that.
Unfortunately, exactly. Unfortunately, no signed posters confirming the fact. But I have been told, indeed, I am related to Ron Swoboda. Cool. How funny.
Yeah. Okay. Well. Okay. More seriously, AJ. Could you help us out in the most basic way on the subject of Christian faith deconstruction? You say that it's the new norm. So if our spouse or child or friend has just told us that they are deconstructing their faith, what do they mean and what are they doing?
Yeah, well, this is obviously a really big topic, right. And there's a lot to say about it. But basically, what we're talking about when we're talking about deconstruction is we are talking about the opposite of construction, right? If you're building a building, you start with this foundation, you put up sort of the base blocks, and then you go from there, and it's this process of building something. Well, for a lot of people, that's a process that they're going through, but for a lot of other people, the process of deconstruction is beginning to question some of the belief structures that they have built for themselves, and it is a very big conversation in the church right now. This conversation of deconstruction. And I think, to be honest with you, some deconstruction is absolutely necessary and healthy, and some of it is also very dark and demonic. So it's a mixed bag. But deconstruction, in essence, means bringing down or questioning beliefs that we have constructed. Mm-hmm.
So you're a former campus minister, a church planner, now a professor. So you have a lot of experience, especially with young adults. So AJ, what have you seen are the primary reasons? People are going to come with a lot of reasons, but what are the primary reasons people are taking either a fine-tooth comb or maybe a hatchet to their faith? Yeah,
there's a couple right now that are really, I think, really important at our moment in history. Mm-hmm. I think number one is a lot of young people who have been handed the faith are beginning to recognize that some of the elements of the faith that they were handed probably don't reflect Jesus and the Bible. Mm-hmm. And as a result of that, question the traditions that have been handed down to them. And I think this is what I mean when I say a good side for deconstruction. Because, for example, a lot of young people that were handed the gospel in some particular community also feel like they were handed really, really, really harmful and dangerous understandings of, their understanding of women or their understanding of power or their understanding of politics or whatnot. And they need to question those things and bring it back to the Bible. So I think a great example would be, feeling like they'd been handed false ideas of God. But I think another side is that a lot of deconstruction is done now in the name of doing away with beliefs that get in the way of giving us what we want. And so for a lot of people, they're deconstructing the Christian faith not because they want to follow Jesus, but because really they want to sleep with who they want to sleep with. Mm-hmm. And to get out of the way those beliefs that get in the way is a really helpful way to get to that place. So there's a lot of reasons. And I, again, back to my first point, I think there's a lot of reasons that are very good for people to deconstruct, but there are also some very nefarious and dark reasons why we deconstruct.
So as somebody who is a parent, we always talk, or we have been talking, about how you want your child to own his or her faith. Is this a part of that process, sort of?
100%. Yeah. And we got to be very careful about our language here, because as parents, I'm a dad of a 10-year-old, we say things like, I want my son to have his own faith. But what that translates as is we want our children to have, to create their own faith for themselves. That's not what we mean.
No.
We don't mean we want them to have a faith for themselves. We're saying we want them to have the faith for themselves. Mm-hmm. And that is, we want them to take the Christian story and actually embody it in their own lives and follow the way of Jesus for themselves. But unfortunately, for a lot of our young people, having your own faith means sort of creating the God that we want for ourselves. And that we have, the Bible has a word for that. It's called idolatry. We're called to worship the God who is, not the God we want. So yeah, but as a parent, it's a terrifying time in history to be a parent, a Christian parent, because our kids are being fed a lot of messages in our world that are anti-Christ, that are anti-Jesus.
Mm-hmm. I think that you've probably already covered this, but I think most Christians would agree that there are cultural factors that have been braided in to some people's understanding of Jesus. And so you would see, I understand, that there are some benefits to teasing out what doesn't belong there.
100%, yeah. So as an example, when I first met Jesus, I was 16 years old. I had a dramatic conversion to Christianity, and I started going to an awesome evangelical church in my hometown, a conservative evangelical church. And I was nurtured in the early years of faith there for a number of years. It wasn't until years later, to be honest with you, Martha, that I realized the same community that handed me the gospel and how to read the Bible and how to share my faith and all these sort of things also handed me a very, 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 I would say, harmful and dangerous view of women in the church. And as a result, in my later years in life, I had to tease out the difference between the really good things that I was handed in that community and the things that really were not Christ-centered. And that process is a very scary process, because we're all tempted to throw the baby out with the bathwater. If we receive something negative from a community, to think the whole thing is wrong. But, my grandma was right. Eat the meat, spit out the bones. There are moments in time that we are given good things from people that are broken. And in essence, we need to learn the skill set of letting go those things that don't reflect Jesus while holding on to the Jesus from those experiences.
Mm-hmm. So when I was on the internet trying to find out more about this process, I ran across the Christianity Now podcast where you are a guest. I was sorting through all kinds of things on the internet to try and find out more about deconstruction. Yeah, I would imagine if somebody else is searching that, there are a lot of ways they could become derailed. Some cultural forces certainly do not support a healthy analysis of the faith. Are we in agreement on that?
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
You could find, Martha, 100 websites, podcasts, books right now that would be under the guise of deconstruction, but their real motivation is to help people undo the faith. No question. Which is why I say in my book, After Doubt, one of the probably the most dangerous places to go if you're in the midst of deconstruction is the internet. That's probably one of the most dangerous places to go.
But you do say in your book, to those who are deconstructing, that there is endless hope. So,
oh man,
yeah. So, what would you say? I guess this is too big of a question for the time we have. What do you say to the person who's deconstructing about that hope? And what do you say is the best way for those of us who love someone who's come to us with that news that they are in the process of pulling things apart? How can we be the best friend, the best kind of family member to somebody going through this?
Oh, what a great question. What a terrific question. Well, my immediate gut level response is to go to the story of Thomas in the New Testament, John's Gospel, John 20:21, the story of a disciple of Jesus who had been there for 3 years and watched the miracles and the feedings of the thousands and demons cast out and whatnot, and went through himself a moment of struggling to believe that the resurrection was a reality. And there's this story in John's Gospel where Jesus appears first to the other disciples, but not to Thomas. Thomas wasn't there. And then Thomas has a hard time believing that Jesus had actually appeared. Yeah. And before Thomas has his eye-opening experience where he does see Jesus' resurrected body, there's two things there that strike me that I think I'd commend to you and your audience. Okay. The first is that the disciples who were believing in the resurrection made room in their midst for the doubter. And that is, they created space for somebody to struggle before they experienced the resurrected Christ. I think you're talking about parents, you're talking about friends. If we got people that are walking through this stuff, I think the most important thing we can do is create space for people that are asking really big questions, and don't marginalize or ostracize or shame people that are in the midst of these experiences, that we need to create space for them. So, yeah, I mean, people can download podcasts, but they can't download friends. And the truth is, we need people who make space for others in the midst of their struggles. But I want to say to the person who's going through the deconstruction, keep drawing yourself back to the community, the resurrection community, before you experience the resurrection, and keep coming back. I'm struck that Thomas kept showing up despite the fact he was struggling to believe. And all of us are going to go through bouts and experiences of having a hard time believing. Keep showing up. Don't quit. Don't quit. Keep showing up. And we all have the promise of hope that Christ will reveal himself fully to each of us. But we play a role of not giving up. Keep coming back. There's hope. Keep coming back.
Thank you. Thank you for that word. Thank you for your book. And thank you for joining me here on Inside Out, AJ.
Martha, thank you for listening to my words and also giving me space to share.
Oh, you are very welcome. You've been listening to Family Life's Inside Out with my guest, the Reverend Dr. A.J. Swoboda. You can learn more about Dr. Swoboda and his books by going to ajswobodawrites.com. I'm Martha Manikas Foster with Inside Out on Family Life.